Hello and welcome to the first episode of 2025 and the start of Season 6 of the Rethink Marketing Podcast. This is the place where we cut through the hype and confusion of conventional marketing advice. As you know, I'm Colin Jeffries, usually joined by the gallant goal-setting guy, Paul Froge, but Paul is unable to join us today, so you're stuck with me. Fortunately, I am joined by an incredible guest, so you don't have to just listen to me blather on and on. We are joined today by Deb Eckerling, who is on a mission to change goal culture. She is the author of several books, including Your Goal Guide, Write on Blogging, and the forthcoming 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. She is a TEDx speaker and frequent keynoter, the founder of Write On and host of Goal Chat, editor of Social Media Examiner, and a guide to countless individuals in areas ranging from penning books to launching blogs to strategizing business growth. She serves as a consultant and workshop facilitator for businesses and teams, offering goal setting, personal and professional planning, content development, event strategy, and team building. And if that isn't enough, she moonlights as a freelance food, lifestyle, and business writer for such publications as Women's World, Writer's Digest, and First for Women. And she also hosts the award-winning Taste Buds with Deb podcast. She believes that to be successful, you must first know what it is that you want. Welcome to the Rethink Marketing Podcast, Deb Eckerling.
Thank you so much for having me. I love your topic because isn't life all about rethinking, whether it's marketing or something else? And that's the way I see goals. You know, it is your life and you can rethink the way you live it anytime, whether it's by choice or circumstance. But when you put that you and the foundation first, really pretty much anything's possible.
Absolutely. Deborah, I'm sure we'll get into talking about the DEB method and those sorts of things. One thing that I've noticed with goal setting, I'm a big fan, full disclosure, of the 12-week year, but there are so many frameworks out there that are great that help you achieve your goals once you know what they are. But it feels like the foundation of all of this is, how do you know what it is that you want? What's the foundation for determining those goals? So you've helped thousands of people or hundreds of people maybe accomplish that and answer that question. How do we go about finding out what our goals should be?
And I really love that you brought that up. And that's really why I rebranded as Deb. This is the way that I've always pretty much felt. But when in 2018, and you've mentioned before, I've done a ton of other things, communications, project management, spring 2018, one of my main clients was going away. And my mom said, "You hate SMART goals. Why don't you create DEB goals?" And I said, "Oh, that's perfect. My name works exactly with what I've been teaching." And DEB stands for determine your mission, explore your options, brainstorm your path. And it really is. Everybody else tells you how to get there. Great. Where's the map? Well, I am the map, right? And it starts with, and when I do workshops, I spend a lot of time on the D, determine your mission. And the phases are visualization. When you think about the life you want, what does that look like? Then you want to write your current bio and then your future bio. With the future bio, it could be end of the year, by your next birthday, 5 years, or any combination thereof. But you want to write it in the third person in the present tense to give it power. So you have where you are, where you're going, and then you write that mission statement, which is basically, who are you? How do you help? What makes you unique, right? So that combination, and to help, it can be to inform, entertain, it could be a product, it could be a service, again, a combo platter. But when you know who you are, what makes you unique, and how you help, that drives everything else. And because mission statements are known for being long and clunky, that's where the motto comes in. That's your log line, your phrase, your self-imposed title, your compass. That's what's going to drive all the decisions you are making as you're working toward setting and achieving those goals.
Well, you mentioned that you hate SMART goals, and I do want to circle back around to why it is that you hate SMART goals and what you hate about them. But this is really fascinating because I'm a person who I like a strategy. I like a clear approach. I like a clear goal because I can start working on it immediately. And this is not a process that can be done in 5 minutes. This takes a lot of work. It takes some soul searching. Talk to me about how you recommend that people begin that process. How long does it take? What types of thought processes are going into developing that motto, to developing that vision, writing their future bio, etc.?
It takes as long as you have to invest in it. And sometimes it's going to take a lot longer than others, because if you're like, I am at a loss, the soul searching piece is going to take a while. But I have found that most people have the answer. They just aren't asking themselves the question. And there's a technique. It is basically my take on journaling, which comes in actually, this is when I was writing your goal guide, which came out January 2020. This was, where do I put this chapter on figuring things out? And I ended up putting it as the first one in Determine Your Mission. I call it directed journaling. And basically, this is like the catch-all potion, if you will, for figuring anything out. And so if you're trying to make a decision, you could use it for that. If you're trying to figure out your life, which is the case of the example, it works for that as well. You cannot figure things out in your head. Okay, most people can't, because I think I've been challenged once or twice on this. Oh, I figure things out in my head all the time. I'm like, good for you. Most people, it's too jumbled. You can't sweep and clear the cobwebs with an actual broom in your head. But when you write things down, then you can be objective. You can see what is in your head and figure out what makes sense. So directed journaling is, you just want to schedule 3, 4, 5, 15-minute appointments with yourself. And you're just going to answer a question or a series of questions that are focused on something you're trying to solve. And so for this case, it's, what do I want? What does that look like? Is it something for work? Is it something for home? And you basically are doing these 15-minute babble sessions 3, 4, 5 times. And the trick is not to read them until after you've completed the exercise, because then you can go back and find the common themes. And something you thought was like top of mind for you, maybe you mentioned it twice. And something else that you had no idea you love so much, you wrote about every single time you picked up your pen. And if you're someone who, and there's all sorts of conversations, it's only journaling if you handwrite it. If you're only going to journal if you type, then type, or keyboard. I think that's what we call it now. Or
voice to text.
Right, exactly. Or voice to text, exactly. So whichever way you're going to do it is the way to do it. And then read through it once, and then read through it again and pick out the common themes. That's really, if you don't know where to start, that is where to start. But again, most people are thinking, well, I really want to be known in my field. Great. What does that look like? What is that? And that's another part of the visualization. Once you kind of hone in on things, you want to create a visual representation. So if you're on the Forbes top 40, under 40, or over 40, or whatever number you are, take an article that has that and mock up you as that person. And then you can put it you print it out, put it up in your office, or use it as your screensaver. Maybe it's you want to vacation with your family, but you work too much, and that is the goal. That's also the visualization that you are working towards. So I know I kind of cheated when you asked me about how much time it takes. It's, if you've got 15 minutes a week or 15 minutes every other day, grab it, make appointments, do the work. But once you're onto something, it's a lot easier. Changing your life, that's the challenge, but figuring it out, right. I kind of feel like that's the easy part.
Deb, you've obviously helped lots of entrepreneurs, aspiring writers to publish their first book, bloggers, etc. Can you share a couple of stories of people who maybe had some semblance of where they wanted to go, but not clear direction, not a motto, and you kind of guided them through the process? Share some of those success stories, because it's always fun to hear, oh, this is what it looks like in theory, and here's what it looks like in practice.
I can share a story from yesterday. I was working with a book client, and we're recording this in December. She's like, thank you for meeting with me now because I really wanted to take the downtime for the holidays." And I'm like, my mission, is to help people embrace the life they want so they make their lives better and other people's lives better as well. And she had this book idea, and she's got a really great concept, but she wasn't sure if it would work. And the meeting was a little bit different in that she wants to write a book proposal. That's one of my subspecialties. Um, I love helping people get their ideas out of their head and onto the page, or out of their head and into their lives. So there's quite a parallel there. And she's like, I just wanted to meet with you to see if this is a thing. And I was surprised because it's such a thing. I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, okay, your next assignment before we meet again, before we go through the sections that you need to fill in, is to fully embrace that you are this motto. You are this person who mixed these two things together and is putting that out in the world. And you asked before about the first step. Once you get to, okay, I want this life, it's really to embrace that motto and use it as that decision tree for where you're going. And I have another book client who's doing the same thing. She's further along in the process. The last time we met, it was like, okay, Deb, I've got all the pieces in place. How am I doing? And I'm like, okay, this piece needs to go there. This piece needs to go there. So in her case, it was unraveling the puzzle. She had the jigsaw puzzle, but we needed to fit the corners were in the wrong corner. But again, it was, as you were going through this process, you really need to claim that you are the queen of your topic, because that's going to show through not only in the book you're creating, but all the content that you're putting out in support of it.
Do you find that a lot of your clients, they sort of know what they want, but they maybe don't have the self-confidence to actually write it down or to actually get there? Because it sounds like a lot of what you're doing is almost like psychological coaching, right? It's sort of, hey, let me change your perception of your personal brand.
I think yes. And I use the word goal strategist because for me, that's what it's about. Okay, what do you want? Let's see what steps we put in place to get you there. She was working a day job and wanted to start the side hustle, and thought she wanted to do one thing. Oh, I'm going to get my expertise out there by doing this. And through the conversation, she wasn't that excited about one project, but she came up with something else. So it might have been, she thought she was going to write like an actual book. And it was like, you know what? I think I just want to do like these little booklets and self-publish it. And that's how I'm going to get myself out there. So it's
very cool.
You could have one idea. One of my favorite stories, and this was, remember in 2020 when we had a pandemic? Remember
right.
How right after March we were all having these 20-minute one-on-ones with people who we couldn't meet with in real life. So we were just meeting with people all over the world and doing these 20-minute Zooms. One of the people who, so my Goal Chat Live show came out of, I was leading a Goal Chat Twitter chat for many years. I sunsetted it 2 years ago when Twitter, which was becoming X and becoming extremely toxic. But I met all these people because I had the Sunday night Twitter chat. So that's kind of where I started with these meetings. One of the women who's my regulars, we were just having this conversation because everybody was asking that what's next question. And she was telling me all the different things she was doing. And I said, well, it sounds to me like your focus really needs to be on nonprofit because that's where your passion lies. And she said, people have known me for years, have never picked that up, and you got it in less than 20 minutes.
Wow. That's really impressive that you have that level of intuition and that level of understanding. I'm sure the train of questions to ask and everything. I do want to circle back to a goal strategist that hates SMART goals. There's a little bit of discussion around what SMART actually stands for: specific, measurable, I think action oriented, something like that, attainable. Now I'm losing the R and the T.
Okay,
Anyway,
I know the T is
SMART
time bound.
goals, time bound.
Right.
SMART goals, though. What's wrong with SMART goals? What are we missing? Those of us that use them. What should we use
Okay.
instead?
I say I hate SMART goals, but that's probably too strong a word. But it got a reaction, so I guess I did something right. Now,
That's right.
This is my issue with SMART goals. SMART goals are a tool to help you reach your goals. That's it.
That's right. They don't tell you what the goal should be.
They do not tell you what they should be, and the people who teach SMART goals did not create SMART goals.
Yes.
Because it was created through, I believe, a math thesis years and years ago, and people picked up on it. And if you're going to teach something, own it, create it. And there are people who do smarter goals. They add an E and an R, and don't ask me what that means either. But
we're in good company here.
But if you're going to do something, do it, own it. I did have someone say, Deb, there's nothing new with goals under the sun. And I'm like, you are entitled to your opinion. There's nothing new anywhere, everywhere. But the way I do goals is different than the way a lot of people do goals. And yes, it's intuitive based, it's brainstorming and task based, to figure out. You can't get what you want unless you know what that is. And that requires setting the foundation for your goals. And as I mentioned before, I've been doing this for years. So I'll rewind. When I lived in Chicago, I was the events coordinator for Barnes & Noble in the 90s. And whenever I needed to fill my calendar, I would hang out in the cafe because I wanted it to be a community bookstore. And one day someone came up to me and said, why don't you start a writer support group? And I said, if you think people will show up, let's give it a shot. And for me, that meant, what are you working on? What resources do you need? How can we troubleshoot? How can we support you? What are your goals for next time? And not only was it a hit, it taught me the value, because I wasn't going to ask people to set goals and not set them myself.
Absolutely.
And so I worked it as well. And it was at the time, I was, my degree's in journalism. So I always had an eye on doing freelancing. I ended up working at the bookstore because I needed a job. And I thought, books, right? And actually, when I started there, I started as part-time. So this is such one of those sidetracks that I didn't realize until we started sidetracking it. But I took this job because I thought it would be good, and then I could freelance. So I was part-time. I think within 2 weeks, I said, give me more hours, because I loved it so much.
That's great.
And then the event position opened at a different Barnes & Noble, and I moved over there. Anyway, you never know. But I still wanted to freelance. So my goal for each meeting was to write a spec article. And a couple months in, I was at an event and someone was trying to sell me a magazine subscription. And I said, well, are you looking for writers? And because I had been writing these specs, I had material to show them. And I ended up freelancing with them for a couple of years. So
wow.
When you're setting your goals, it doesn't have to be the whole ball of wax. It could just be doing something that you enjoy, that's going to bring you that energy that you could take to things that you maybe aren't loving as much, but you're going to approach them with a better attitude because it's not the all of what you're doing. So fast forward, I moved to LA. I always talked about this great writers group, so I restarted it here. And over the years, it's gone through transitions. It is Right On Online is a Facebook community for goal setting, productivity, and community. And it's been in person, a hybrid. It's been online only for a while. But back when I was doing those in-person meetings, people would say, you're good at this. I've been trying to write my book for years. Can you help me? and we got it done in 3 months. Or
Wow.
you're good at this. Will you speak at my event? So I had been doing all this Deb stuff and leading workshops. And when I rebranded, it was like light bulb to me, because this is the way that I had always thought of things. And I'll add one more thing. When my agents sent out, it was the DEB method. Your goal guide was sent out. The book proposal was the DEB method as my system. And he sent it out over the summer and then again in the fall. And there was one line that changed between both versions, because I added, whereas most goal setting experts tell you how to achieve your goals, only the DEB method helps you sound the foundation. It helps you figure out the foundation so you set goals that set you up for success. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that differentiation is what made a difference.
That makes a ton of sense. So when we're thinking through the DEB method, I know we talked about determine your mission. Step 2E is explore your options. Unpack that for us a little bit.
So explore your options starts with that directed journaling, but really focused on, okay, this is the life I want. How am I going to make it happen? And maybe your directed journaling is, do I get a new job, or do I try to advance in my company? Do I stay in this field, or do I explore something that's more lateral? What can I use my skills for? Or I want to start a side hustle or a business. Great. Product or service? What product, what service? Or I need to spend more family time. How do I have more balance in my life? So it can really, I was very proud of myself when I wrote your goal guide. I was able to put it in those 4 buckets,
Very cool.
career change, build a business, thought leadership, and work-life balance. So in anything you're going to do is going to fall into one of them or a combo, right?
And I'm imagining most of the people that you're working with, and likely most of your readers, are working on goals that are in all 4 of those buckets, or maybe 3 of those 4 buckets, depending, I guess, on whether or not they want to make a career move or whether or not they have a business.
Yes, exactly. It is definitely multi-bucketable. But the idea is, this is the vision for my life. Goal setting simplified. That's my motto. Because as I said before, changing your life is challenging enough. So I just made the instructions really easy. So everything that I create is around that. So if I'm directed journaling, it's like, what's next? Do I write a book? Do I start, and everything, whenever I do a project for myself, I do a version of Deb for it. What is the mission for it? What do I need to do? So do I write a book? Do I start a blog? Do I start a podcast? What do I need to do to get myself out there to be said thought leader? Or maybe it's problems with their career. What is the issue? One thing that I love to do is I love to go into businesses and do workshops for teams right before the annual review, because we start with, okay, what are your successes? Great. Now let's take that energy and think about, what are your goals? Are your goals to advance within the company, within the department? Are you looking to advance to a different department? Maybe you picked up skills during the pandemic because you were bored and you took a bunch of classes, but you want to stay at this company. Or maybe you want to start a side hustle and your goal is just for them to leave you alone when you're not on the clock. So that's what the exploration is, whether what is next for you in alignment with that motto. So you do this directed journaling, you go through, find the common themes. Maybe you make a list of 10 things, narrow it down to 5 or to 3, and then do some research. What is it going to take to have this new path? Maybe your dream is to be, and I love using cooking analogies. Maybe your dream is to win a cooking competition show. Well, if you already have skills in the kitchen, or if that's already your career, then you're in a lot better shape than someone who burns toast.
Guilty.
Right? In which case, there's also a cooking show for horse cooks. Anyway, my point being, this will help you in doing the research. You will see, what is it going to take? And you and I were talking about this a little bit before we went live. It's like, You can't decide between a blog or a video show. Well, you don't need to. You can record via video and release it both
Right.
places. Easy, right? Or what are the different ideas of things that you can bring into your life to make your goals happen? And maybe it's to start a side hustle. What is that going to be? So,
And Deb, just to clarify, when you were talking about research, that's the B in the DEB method, right? That's the brainstorming your path.
oh no, we're not even there yet.
Oh, all right. Just making sure for my own
Oh
understanding
yes.
that I
So
wasn't
explore
missing
your
anything there.
options. It's the research phase. So you're putting
Okay.
all your ideas out there. You're going to pick like 3, and then you're going to do some research. So you can reach out, see who in your network knows what it is that you need to know, or who are your connectors, who are the people like you or me who, even if they don't have the answer, they know who to ask.
Yes.
So that way you can make an informed decision. Okay, great. I looked at all these things. What am I most excited about that is also in alignment with my mission and motto? And that's what you're going to want to move forward on. And now we're at brainstorm your path. Yay. And that's, again, you're going to write out, you're going to empty your brain. What's everything that you need and want to do? And these are your personal goals and professional goals, short-term, long-term, related to work, related to different projects. You were mentioning before that there's a lot of overlap. So I like creating a blog or a website. That's something you're going to need, whether it's for thought leadership or side hustle or whatever. So you're going to dump out all the things that you need to do, and then you want to organize it. So action items lead to benchmarks. Benchmarks lead to short-term goals. Short-term goals lead to long-term goals. So long-term goal, whether it's to be a leader in your field or build a business or get known as an expert so you can get hired somewhere else, you need this website, right? So each benchmark is like, okay, I need to do the technical specs. Another benchmark is what sort of content am I going to create? And then the third benchmark is what's it going to look like? What's the style? So for each of those benchmarks, you have to do different things. Okay, I need to get a hosting and the URL. For the branding, you need maybe a logo and what are your colors going to look like for the content, those decisions. And once you hit all the benchmarks, you reach that short-term goal of starting a blog.
I like it. Now, when we're thinking about short-term versus long-term goals, I know some goal strategists will say, hey, set like a long-term 10-year goal, set a long-term 5-year goal, and then work on a bunch of kind of quarterly goals or what have you that will keep advancing you there. When you're thinking of long-term goals, is there a particular time horizon that you think makes sense? I forget the old quote, but it's something like, people greatly overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and greatly underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years. So what exactly are you thinking of when you're saying long-term versus short-term?
I think the long-term can be 1 to 5 years. And
Oh, okay.
maybe it's what is the ultimate goal is the one that you put at the top. My ultimate goal is to be the first person people think of when they hear the word goal. It's a long-term goal. I
Yes.
don't know that I can put a number of years on it, but it is always at the forefront of my mind. And maybe another long-term goal, New York Times bestseller. What are these things? Okay, great. You want to be a bestseller, then those short-term goals have to be, write a book, get an agent, get a publisher, all those different sorts of things. I think it's also important to set long and short-term personal goals, because if you're happy in your life, it's going to impact your business. If you're happy in your business, it's going to impact your life. And maybe you're not happy at both at the same time. I mean, I hope you are, but everybody's life and career goes through those ups and downs. So what are you looking forward to? I want to buy a house. I want a vacation. Great. What are some of the things that you're going to do? And with the personal goals, sometimes it's a little bit different, a healthier lifestyle. I mean, that's I kind of feel like a goal, everybody, unless that is your thing. I think having a healthier lifestyle is something anybody is going to want to aspire to. Have more balance. Then you have to define balance. What is balance? Is that the cutoff time when you, I would say, have a cutoff time for when you stop responding to emails, and then a cutoff time for when you stop looking at them. Because just because people email you at 10 o'clock at night, unless it's urgent, it's very rare that you need to respond that night. But you can still be curious. So you want to set, what are the rules that you're going to set so you have that kind of a balance. And then the other thing, just as a side note.
Real quick, Deb, that
Yeah.
is huge. I don't think a lot of people realize the impact that focus has on goal setting, goal achieving, and even just basically being present. I know for me personally, not to hijack the conversation,
Oh,
but
please
I know
hijack
for
away.
me personally, I stopped checking work email on the weekends because I found myself on Saturdays, on Sunday evenings, whatever. Most of what I was doing, work email related, was unsubscribing from lists that were spamming me from Friday night to Monday morning. And I stopped doing that. Now I do my unsubscribing on Monday afternoons when I'm checking email. But it's just funny because that would take me from spending time with my family or with my friends or what have you, back into work mode, back into this. I'd get kind of annoyed that some person sold my email information. I was on this list I shouldn't have been on, but no really important work emails were coming in, Sunday at 3 p.m. So I think just the ability to set those boundaries is absolutely key, because then I am focused on whatever the task at hand is and not on something that really should be contained for, say, Monday.
And you brought up something else that's important, which is, if you have to work on the weekend, then swap it out for time you take off during the week. I believe that, and I'm guessing most of your audience, we're all entrepreneurs, we're all multi hyphenates, and we're going to be wanting to work on things that we're excited about. Sometimes we have to
Right.
because of a deadline, but sometimes we want to because we're excited about our projects. That's great, but I think it's really important to take at least one weekend day off, or if you're more comfortable, take 2 half days, or if you have to work on the weekend, take a day off during the week, because we need to recharge. We need to be disconnected. I am a former non-cook who's now a food writer and food podcaster. And the reason I love cooking so much is you cannot be on your phone or your computer and cook.
That's right.
And so if you do not have a project like that, find one. Maybe it's knitting, maybe it's gardening. I don't know what it is, but find something that causes you to disconnect, because that's also going to make a huge difference in refreshing you and getting you set for the week ahead.
Deb, in your upcoming book, you interviewed 60 high achievers about their accomplishments and their, I assume, goal setting process and everything. What role did rest or play or just downtime have in their accomplishments?
There is a chapter on well-being. So what it is, what the book is each part, there are different sections: well-being, teamwork, productivity, um, action, and a couple others thrown in there. I did it completely out of order, by the way. But what I did is I asked these people one question, what is your secret? And it could be goal setting or goal getting. And then I took all of these wonderful interviews and put them in different areas. And one of them is seek harmony, not balance. So it speaks to exactly what we're talking about.
That's really fascinating. Well, Deb, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it. It's made me take a step back and think about the way that I go about goal setting and goal planning and everything. So I appreciate the insights and the conversation here. We are the Rethink Marketing Podcast. We like to ask each guest, what is one thing that you are rethinking? It can be personal, it can be professional, it can be anything in between.
I love the question. And I think the big thing I have been rethinking is ways to get in front of the people who don't know me. Because as you love what you do, I love what I do. And I have to remember, and I said this before, I DEB Method all of my projects just so they have that focus. One of the things that I need to do is to get in front of more people who don't know me. And how do you do that? You need to get out of your comfort zone. And this is what I tell the authors that I work with, you were talking before about that claiming that confidence piece. When people need what you have to say, it is up to you to get yourself out there. So that is, especially in getting this new book out there, one thing I've been rethinking is the way in which I get in front of other people. And that's caused me, I when I was doing the book, I'd say maybe 10 of them were done via email, but most of these were interviews I did with the different achievers in
That's great.
this variety of areas. But at the end, I would ask, okay, who else needs to be in the book? Who else do I need to know? And I got some really great people. So, and I love to say, everybody in the book is a first degree connection because there's someone I know or have been through an introduction. So I am rethinking, okay, this is great. Now, how do I use this skill to get me in front of more people so I can help more people?
I love that. That's awesome. Deb, anything that we didn't cover that you think we should give our audience insight into?
Well, I wanted to add one other thing. So when you're brainstorming your path, I mapped out this is how you do it for projects. For those personal goals, those achievements for making your life better, a lot of those are more like lifestyle changes. And for that, it's like, okay, I want to live a healthier life. You make a list. Or I want to meet more people, make a list of the different networking options. And then pick like a day every week where you focus on, okay, I want to be better at this week. What are the things that I'm going to schedule into my life in order to do that? So that was just that other piece that I wanted to add. And then in answer to this question, what I want to leave people with is it's your life, which means it's your choice. And these can be little changes. These could be big changes. You get to make the rules. That's why I love the new book. It's like a choose your own adventure because you can go to the table of contents and see, okay, which section of my life do I need advice on? Do I need to have some productivity? And you go right to that chapter. So your life is your own, choose your own adventure. So look at everything you have going on and figure out what is realistic to incorporate into it in service of creating the life you want. And just do that. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't underwhelm yourself. Look at your life and pick things that you could do that will fit in, because that is the way that you set yourself up for success.
I love that. It reminds me of I think it's Stephen Covey that said, as you scramble up the ladder of success, ensure that it's leaned against the correct building. And that's exactly what that's reminding me of is, hey, come up with changes that you want to implement that are getting you toward your goal. You understand what your vision is, what your objective is, I think you called it your future bio. That's really resonating. And I think it's wise advice. Obviously learn from years of leading teams and online communities and in-person communities, helping a lot of people achieve their goals. So Deb, thank you so much again for joining us today on the Rethink Marketing Podcast. If people want to pre-order your upcoming book or buy copies of your existing books, how can they follow you, find out more about what you're up to?
Well, I am at the DEB Method everywhere on social media, and you can go to thedebmethod.com. For the new book, you can go to 52secretsbook.com, and that's talk about embracing branding, because the other thing that I want this book to accomplish is everybody, the secret to success is there is no one secret, only options. So you can learn more at that website for that book. And also there's a place where you could submit your secret for a future book.
Very cool.
Yes. So in my vision, 52 Secrets is the next chicken soup for the soul, because everybody has these ideas. Everybody has these stories. So I'm looking to start a movement of everybody, if you share what works for you, it's going to help others, which is really what goal setting and goal getting is all about. You can't reach your goals on your own. So those are the places to find me. You can also connect on LinkedIn, and you can grab a copy of 52 Secrets and your goal guide at your favorite place to buy books.
Fantastic. Well, Deb, again, thank you so much for joining us on the Rethink Marketing Podcast. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to this first episode of Season 6, our kickoff to 2025. We hope that you have a fantastic and successful new year. And until next time, keep rethinking those common assumptions and keep rethinking goal setting. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If people want to connect with us, where should they go, Paul?
RethinkMarketingPodcast.com, Colin. What can listeners do to help us in return for the sage marketing wisdom and our pithy humor?
They can help us by leaving a review on their favorite platform or sharing this episode with a fellow marketer to help them cut through the clutter.
Well, until next time, keep rethinking those common assumptions.